This video is a quick look at how the dagger scene, Act 2, Scene 1 in Macbeth, changes our opinion of the character of Macbeth himself. Before you start, you should have a look at these key ideas. You'll know this if you're not coming to it for the first time, but if you've been absent or you've missed it or you need a refresher, here it is. Macbeth is on his way to kill Duncan. He sees a dagger floating in the air. He tries to touch it, but it isn't real. Some directors suggest that it's a vision from the witches. Others suggest it's Macbeth's madness beginning. You need to make directorial decisions in your head about how you see this scene, because the way that the scene is presented changes the way you see Macbeth. If we see the dagger with him, then we're in it with him. We're understanding his state of mind. If we see him talking to the empty air, then that creates this sense of madness that potentially undermines how you see the character and his sense later. Let's have a read of the first part of the speech together. Is this a dagger which I see before me, the handle towards my hand? Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not, fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight, or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation proceeding from the heat-oppressed brain? Let's have a look at some key questions you might ask yourself. It's worth considering why he's talking to the dagger, why there are so many questions, and what the dagger itself symbolises. The idea of the fatal vision very much suggests that he knows things based on what he's seeing. Have a little think about these. Once you've done that, unpause the video, and on the next slide, some answers or suggested thoughts might appear. So, you've had a look, you've had a think, now let's get some notes. In summary, this section is about his uncertainty and his fear and making the decision about whether it's the witches manipulating him or whether it's his own lust for power, his own ambition that's key at this point. Make sure you've got these notes down somewhere safe. You can always come back to this point in the video if you need it. We'll now have a look at the next section. I see thee yet, in form as palpable as this, which now I draw. Thou marshals me the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. Mine eyes are made the fools of the other senses, or else worth all the rest. I see thee still, and on thy blade and dudgeon gouts of blood, which was not so before. Again, key questions. There are some suggestions here about how he's continuing to not believe what he's seeing, but also that violence is now coming to the surface, that what he's seeing represents his own desire to kill. Again, have a think about these questions, then unpause and we'll have a look at a set of model answers. Same section, and as before, 4 possible model answers that you might use. Again, pause the video here, jot yourself some notes, and then when you're ready, unpause and on we go. There's no such thing. It is the bloody business which informs thus to mine eyes. Now over the one half world nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtained sleep. Witchcraft celebrates pale Hecate's offerings, and withered murder, alarmed by his sentinel the wolf, whose howls his watch, thus with his stealthy pace, with Tarquin's ravishing strides, towards his design, moves like a ghost. Here Macbeth changes tone. He stops looking inward at himself and starts looking outward at how the world seems to be changing. 3 questions this time. The last one is quite vague because that bit of speech is quite complicated and you probably wouldn't quote it all in an exam. So you want to get a sense of the overview so you can talk about the sort of totality of it, the thing as a whole. Once you're done thinking for yourself, click on and you'll see some model answers. 3 sets of model answers here. Okay. In summation, if you're looking for something a bit more intelligent than my annotation on the bottom left, you might want to look at the idea of witchcraft celebrates, this sense of evil beginning to take its shape in the world. You might want to look at the idea of nature seems dead, which ties to the idea that killing the king would upset the great chain of being, challenge the divine right of kings, and so is a challenge to nature. In this section, the questions are already on the screen for you, so you can have a think about them as we read. This is the final section of the dagger speech. Here we go. Thou sure and firm set earth, hear not my steps, which way they walk, for fear the very stones prate of my whereabouts, and take the present horror from the time which now suits with it. While I threat, he lives. Words to the heat of deeds too cold breath gives. A bell rings. I go, and it is done. The bell invites me. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell. And here you've got the full range of emotions. Have a look at the annotations, have a think for yourself, and then click on for some sensible answers. Here we go. This is still about conflict, but the conflict seems to me to be resolved by the end of it. That at the end of this speech, he's made decisions and he's starting to move on with his actions. Your last job. I want this analysed. So, there are some sentence stems on the screen. You know how to do this, and you've got a clear title at the top. How does Shakespeare present Macbeth in the dagger speech? Use the video. Make sure that when you're doing this as a model, because it's such a key scene, you really invest in 3 or 4 quotations and make it really strong. Remember to email it to your English teacher when you're done.